Well, g'day everybody, welcome back. I'm the Backyard DIY guy, and today we are going to do a bit of tiling. A few weeks ago I had a new mixer tap put in my sink. I used to have wall mounted taps, and what happened is when they took the wall mounted taps out, they left a big hole and some broken tiles. So what I'm going to show you today is how to repair the hole, and that'll form a new backing plate for the tiles, and then tile up to finish it so it's nice and neat. Okay, so I hope you enjoy this video, and let's get into it. And I'll just show you what tools and things you're going to need to do the job properly. I've got it all laid out here for everyone to see. So starting off with the tile spacers, I'm using 1.5mm spacers, the tile grout, an alabaster that matches up with the tile grout that's in there already. A sponge, that's what pushes the grout into the spacers. We've also got the tile, the Subway tile. It's exactly the same tile as what comes off the wall there. So a punch and chisel set just to be able to remove the existing tiles. This is your tile glue or adhesive. The tile spatula might be a bit big. I've used this on bigger jobs, but we'll see how we go. Just a small spatula. Sponge float, that's for pushing the grout into the spaces between the tiles, and just a hammer, that's just to move the chisel along. You'll also need some water and some buckets to mix everything up. So now that you know what we need, what I might do quickly is just you know, I'm not an experienced tiler at all, but I am the Backyard DIY guy, so I do a lot of these sorts of things. I'll just quickly flick you over to a bathroom that I recently tiled, just to show you that I sort of do know what I'm doing to some extent. Okay, have a quick look at this and then I'll get into it. Okay, so I did this bathroom a few months ago. I finished it. Just a bit of an example of what I've done in the past, just to show you that I do have a little bit of knowledge and experience about what I'm doing. I'm not just an everyday hack. But again, as I've mentioned in previous videos, I've gained all my knowledge purely through watching other YouTube videos and trial and error. You know, you work hard enough and eventually you'll start doing it right. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, so we're going to get into this now. Health and safety is priority, so make sure we're wearing our safety glasses, make sure they're clean. And protective handwear, we're dealing with tiles, so could be very sharp. Okay, so with every sort of project that you do that is a trade-based type project, I like to think that your preparation is the key. So your ability to have the right equipment, the right tools, have a knowledge of what you're about to do, and also when you're actually doing it, if you're painting or tiling or whatever, get your surface perfect to start with, and then you won't have any problems down the track. So for this example, what I'm referring to is removing these tiles that you want to take out and just cleaning up this surface so there's no glue left on the back of here, so it's a nice smooth even surface. What is going to happen is I've got a big hole here, so I will need to fill that hole in so I can push the tile up against it. But first things first, let's start moving these tiles out of the way. You've got to be very careful when you're chipping around the tiles because they will damage very easily. I started doing it here and I pushed the metal a little bit too close to the tile and I've fractured this tile here on the corner, which means this whole tile now has to come out. So I created extra work by not doing it properly. There's no right or wrong way of doing this. Just do it the way that works the best. Do it safely and try and not smash the hell out of everything. Okay, so I've now removed all the tiles. I've also, as you would have noticed, cleaned off all all the grout that was sticking to the edges of these tiles. That's very important to do, because when it comes to putting your new grout in, that stuff could stick out of your new grout, so, and you can see it. So the next part of the project is just cleaning up a little bit here, get rid of this mess so you don't have any of this stuff left here to work around. And then I need to fill in this hole here to give myself a new backing plate to push the tiles against. Okay, so I'll get into that now. Okay, so I took some measurements of some of the internal parts of the wall there, and I've come up with this piece here as my backing board. Should be roughly the right fit. Haven't fitted it yet, so we'll see how we go. Yeah, it should just slide in with a bit of luck. Yeah, so that's perfect. Pretty much exactly how I thought it would go. It's just now a matter of just attaching that through the stud wall with some screws. Once we've done that, we're pretty much right to start the tiling process. So I'll just punch that in now with some screws and we'll be ready to go. Okay. All ready to go. The next step in finishing off our hole in the kitchen is to do the tiling, and the first thing we need to do is get the adhesive ready. Now I buy the adhesive in a powder form. This is the Dunlop multi-purpose, so this does floors and walls for tiles. I recommend not getting the purely the floor stuff if you're doing wall tiles, because it's just not as tacky, and you can find that your tiles do droop and you're having to sort of play with it a lot more. The trick with getting this this tile adhesive right is the consistency. You don't want it too runny and you don't want it too hard either. You know, you want it just right, basically so it just drops off the trowel when you pick some out. Now, you know, if I was making a big batch, I'd use my drill and this stirrer, mechanical stirrer. We're only making a little bit, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to use a nice green container, a spatula, pour a bit in there, add some water and then mix it up. Okay, just the top two tiles need to be cut down because they just don't quite fit underneath that windowsill. So to do that, you'll need a tile cutting disc and an angle grinder. You need to measure your line on your tile that you want to cut. Good idea to do that with a set square. I've also got a tile cutter, a cutting machine, but well, not a machine, it's just a cutting tool, like a tile cutting tool. It won't work in this case though, because it's too narrow, it's too close to the top. If we were cutting straight through the middle, I'd just do it with that and then break in half. But it won't work. Mine won't anyway. Maybe I don't have a really good one. Anyway, so let's do it. Try and get it as neat as you can. The edge that you cut will go up under the windowsill, so it's going to be hidden anyway, because then you'll put a lick of silicone over the top, but try and get it as neat as possible. If you're not happy with it, do another one. Before I cut the other one, I'm just going to go and check, make sure this one fits. Okay, that was perfect. Just one little tip, when you're bringing the angle grinder down onto your line, don't bring it in from this side, bring it in from this side, because if you nick the tile, you'll either have to start again and throw it away, or you'll just have a mark on your tile that looks really bad. So start on this edge and just work your way in. So if it's when it first starts to touch, just guide it over a little bit on your line. Okay. Beautiful. Okay, now we can mix the grout. All right, now we can do the tile adhesive, ready to go. It's a good idea to, once you've got the adhesive ready, pretty much get it on the wall straight away because it starts to go off. Pretty happy with that. That's not bad. Alright, I'm going to go and get that on the wall. Okay, it's important to get it on the wall pretty quick. If you find that your tile adhesive's starting to... damn it, I need to shut that door. Okay, so it's important to get that tile adhesive on the wall pretty quick because it starts to go off. And if it does that and it's quicker than what you want it to do, just add a little bit more, stir it in. All right. Try and get a nice even cover. Don't have it too much on there. Put too much on, your tiles will stick out too fast, so just be careful. Sure, I'm shooting the video. Okay, once you think you've got enough on, just get this tool here. It's not too bad. I'll try and get a little bit more in there though. Need to make sure that the tile sticks really good. Gotta get on that corner. There we go, and I'll just drag that back. Like that. Like I said, you got too much on there, it'll stick out. Right. So that's pretty close to ready to go now. Just wipe some of these little bit excess out, otherwise it just trust me, it makes it easier when you go to clean up later on. There we go. Rightio, so let's do it. Now, start from the bottom, work your way up. Like I said at the start of the program, I'm using 3mm spacers. I think I said 3mm spacers. That matches up with the other grout lines. Okay, so get your tile nice and neatly and gently. Just give it a bit of a rock backwards and forwards. Grab your spacer. We're sitting it on the bench here, we're not elevating it. Sometimes you'll use little elevation spacers to lift, but we're going to sit it straight on. Yeah, that's perfect. Just keep working your way along. All things going well, the tile it should line up perfectly because there used to be tiles there. Probably don't need that one. So the bench is flat. It's a brand new kitchen. Okay, so there's not much of a gap here I can see. So what that means, I'm going to have to take these spaces out and we're just going to have to even that off a bit. Now these tiles aren't set yet, so you can move them back a little bit. Just like that. Just like that. Give that one a bit of a rock backwards and forwards. And just make sure your gaps are nice and even. I'm not. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Okay, and do the same thing with your top tile. If you think there's a little bit light on the wall, just wipe a little bit on your tile, perhaps. Like I can notice that this little area here is just a little bit of light, so. This is where your spacers will come in useful. Alright. You want to try and get that grout out of there, because what it'll do, it just means you've got to chip it out later and it'll stick through your grout. Sorry, the tile adhesive, it'll stick through the grout and it just looks bad. Get a bit of rag and wipe that out if you've got one. I haven't got one around. Just going to use a knife. just like a round edged knife. Yeah, look at that. That's what you want to do. Clean it up. That's the way. Now this tile's dropped down a little bit, so we need to push him back up before he sets. Probably a little bit too much grout in here, so I'll pull that out. Adhesive, I mean. See? As long as it's not poking out above the level or past the level of the tile. But just from my experience, I know that when that adhesive sets, you either got to chip it out, but you run the risk of damaging your tile if you're using something metal. And yeah, quite often the adhesive can show through the grout. I guarantee the pros wouldn't have to do this, but it's just it's better for it in the long run. My spaces are too big. I've got 3 mil. They're probably only supposed to be 1.5 to 2 mil. So they're useless, which means I'm just going to have to make sure there's no droop. I made sure that also that my adhesive was not too wet, and by doing that, it means that it's just a lot more tacky and it shouldn't fall. I'm only doing a little patch-up job so you can get away with it, but if I was doing the whole wall, I would have had to stop the project and just go and buy new ones. Very happy with that. Okay, I'll have to let that dry now. Maybe an hour or so, and I'll come back and I'll do the grouting. Okay, so around about an hour's gone past and the tile's fairly well set on the wall. It's time to mix up our grout. I'm going to go the Alabaster, which is the it matches the grout on the wall. You really don't need much grout. No, I mean for a big project you do, but not for when it comes to just fixing up a little small hole in the wall. So you don't. If you have that ice cream container, you'll need to mix up a lot. So I've got a smaller container here. Again, you'll probably have some leftovers. It's not a bad thing. Better than that than run short. Okay, so I'm going to pour in the amount that I need. Like, I don't know, a cupful, maybe. We'll see how we go. Don't need to put in much. I'll probably put in a bit too much now, because I'll have to add some more powder. That's okay. I like lots of this stuff. Again, the consistency is sort of tacky, maybe a touch runnier than what it was for the adhesive. But I guarantee if it's too runny, this stuff is so hard to apply, it just drips everywhere. It's a massive mess. So as you can see what I've got here, that's too runny. So I need to put a little bit more in. The amount's pretty good though, I don't need much more than that. I'll put a little bit more in. It'll thicken up quickly. That's about how we want it. Okay. Okay, so we're up to the grouting part now. This is the last phase, and then you've got to do all the cleaning up. But what you'll need is some water, fresh water, sponge. This is a proper tiling sponge. I like these sponges because they've got an edge on every side. You can get some that are round, big sort of round thing. I like it where they've got an edge because you can continuously use the sponge and turn it and turn it and turn it. For a big project, it's handy because you wipe along, you can turn it along, wipe along, and you can use the end bits. Okay. Okay. Also the grout and a grout foam float. And what I like to do for this little tiny project, I'm going to spoon it in with this. For a bigger project, I'd be gouging it out with a trowel and just going crazy, just putting it in. Okay, but you really don't need much, and these are only small grout ones. Okay, so just get it into the hole. Make sure you're pushing it as far as you can. That's what this thing's for. So once you get it sort of as close as you can, wipe the excess off. Just go along like that. Makes a little bit of a noise. That's the grout going along the tile. Just work your way along. Try and get the whole lot done, I think. The way to go. You can see the consistency there. If that was really runny, you'd just be going absolutely everywhere and just be making a big mess. Okay, wipe a bit off there. Use the sponge, the float, just to get a little bit on the edge, on the end of the trowel, the spatula. Like that. Make sure you get all the, push it all in. It's going to be a little bit messy, but that's just what happens. All right, now that you've done that, sort of use this to really push it in. Now, it's important to make sure you're getting it all in. You want to push it as far in as you can. You can see just here it's come out, so just get it, sponge it back in. Try not to wipe along with the grain, you go against the grain, otherwise you'll just pull it out. Okay, looking pretty good. Once you think you've got it all in, as much as you can get in, get your, before this starts to dry too much, start taking it off with your sponge. Like that. And this is where I said it comes in handy because you can turn it over and use the underside. You'll need to keep doing this for a little bit. Try not to run with the grain, So I'm just working my way along the top here. And you really don't want to take all that back into your water, so just take the excess off like that. There we go, not looking too bad. You get to the point where your sponge is just too full and you're not really doing anything, you're just smearing it everywhere. When you get to that point, put your sponge in the water and just rinse it out, try and get everything off it and start again. And as you keep going, you'll notice that you'll start to clean up your tiles and there's no mess left on it. A little bit too full here, so make sure you get that out. Just give it a couple of wipes and that's all it'll take. It's also pretty deep in down along here, and if I try and dig that out with a sponge, it's just going to take everything out. So just get your spatula and take it out. I'm going to fill that gap in later with silicone. Yep, that's all you need to do. Same down here and here as well. That's okay. Don't be too worried about messing up your grout line because you can get your sponge and clean that up. Okay. You see, if it's a bit messy, you just run over it with your sponge and it is perfect. Once that grout dries, it'll dry the right colour. It always looks a little bit, because it's fresh and wet, it looks a little bit darker. Once you think you're finished, check all your grout lines to make sure there's not too much grout left in there. If it's flush with the tile, that's not what you want. You want a little bit of a concave. Okay. Okay, so that's the tiling finished. The next step is just to run a caulking line along the bottom there and along the top as well, and you're finished. So you know, it's not really that hard. Few steps that you need to go through to get it all to work right. Make sure that you know, if you follow what I did on this video, then you know, you really won't have any problems. Like I keep saying, I'm not a professional, but it's not that hard to do it if you sort of have an idea of how to do it properly. And it also helps to have some of the right gear as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and you know, give it a go and good luck. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.